Businessman catches wheelchair-bound nanny dancing with his daughter and does the unthinkable. Michael Thompson was desperate after months of trying to find someone who could care for his daughter, Emma Grace. The 4-year-old had completely closed herself off since losing her mother, and no nanny lasted more than 2 weeks before giving up on the difficult child who barely spoke and refused any affection. Then he decided to come home early that Thursday, wanting to check on how Rebecca Wilson, the wheelchair-bound nanny he had hired out of pure desperation just 3 weeks earlier, was doing. As he approached the living room window, Michael froze. His daughter was holding hands with Rebecca, who was spinning her wheelchair in smooth movements, while Emma Grace laughed and danced along. The little girl, who had barely mumbled a few words in months, was loudly singing a children's song with a joy he hadn't seen since before the passing of his wife Jennifer. Michael's heart raced. Without making a sound, he grabbed his phone and started recording. The two were completely lost in their improvised choreography, a unique language that seemed to have formed between them. Emma Grace mimicked the wheelchair's circular motions with her own body, creating steps he had never seen his daughter do before. "Now you do it like this, Aunt Rebecca," Emma Grace shouted, twirling like a little yellow tornado in her flowered dress. "That's right, Princess. You're dancing like a real ballerina," Rebecca replied, her curls bouncing as she moved the chair in perfect rhythm. Michael felt his eyes well up. 3 weeks ago, when he finally agreed to hire Rebecca after dozens of other candidates turned him down upon learning she was in a wheelchair, he had only hoped someone could at least get Emma Grace to eat and sleep on time. He never imagined he'd see his daughter like this again. The decision to hire Rebecca had been made in a moment of sheer desperation. She was the 10th nanny to give up on Emma Grace in 6 months. Agencies no longer wanted to recommend professionals to his home, saying the girl was too difficult. When Rebecca showed up at his door after being rejected by 3 different agencies because of her wheelchair, Michael was so exhausted he barely paid attention to the details. He needed someone, anyone, who wouldn't run away on the first day. "Mr. Michael," Rebecca had said that afternoon 3 weeks ago, "I know my situation might seem complicated, but I promise I can take very good care of Emma Grace. I have experience with children, and I know how hard it is for them to cope with loss." He had agreed more out of desperation than conviction. Now, watching this scene through the window, Michael wondered how he could have ever hesitated. He kept recording as the two danced. Emma Grace ran to a corner of the room and returned with some colorful scarves he didn't even know were there. Rebecca took 2 and began waving them in the air while her chair glided in smooth curves. The little girl copied every movement, her blonde hair flying as she spun. "Aunt Rebecca, can I tell you a secret?" Emma Grace asked, stopping to catch her breath. "Of course, Princess. You can tell me anything." "I dreamed about Mommy last night. She was dancing too, just like us." Rebecca stopped the chair and opened her arms. Emma Grace ran to her and nestled into her lap. "You know what I think?" Rebecca said, stroking the girl's hair. "I think your mommy is so happy to see you dancing again. I'm sure she loved seeing you like this." "She used to teach me how to dance before she got sick," Emma Grace murmured. "But after she left, I forgot how." "You didn't forget, Princess. It was just tucked away in here." Rebecca gently touched the girl's chest. "Sometimes when we're very sad, we hide the good things to avoid hurting even more. But now you're ready to dance again." Michael had to lean against the wall. He was watching his daughter process her grief in a way he had never been able to help her do. For months, he had tried taking her to psychologists, offered toys, trips, anything that might bring her back. But it was a woman in a wheelchair, hired out of desperation, who managed to do what he couldn't. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, Rebecca moved the chair again, this time in slower motions, almost like a waltz. Emma Grace slid off her lap and began to follow, making movements that seemed to have technique behind them, as if someone had already taught her the basics of classical dance. "Where did you learn to dance like that?" Emma Grace asked. For a moment, Rebecca hesitated. Michael saw a shadow pass over her face before she smiled again. I used to dance when I was younger, a long time ago. Were you a real ballerina? Yes, sweetheart. I danced in big theaters with bright lights and lots of people watching. Why did you stop? Michael noticed Rebecca tighten her grip on the wheels of the chair. Sometimes life changes our plans, she said softly, but knowing how to dance never leaves you. It's like riding a bike. You never forget. Emma Grace seemed to accept the explanation and went back to dancing. Michael kept recording, now with a mix of emotions he couldn't fully process. There was gratitude, admiration, but also a growing curiosity about Rebecca's past. When he finally put his phone away, Michael wasn't sure what he'd do with those images. All he knew was that they captured the moment his daughter began to smile again, to speak, to be a child once more. And it had happened because of a woman society considered limited. That night, after Rebecca left and Emma Grace fell asleep without resistance for the first time in months, Michael stood alone in the room where he'd witnessed it all. He looked around and noticed small details he hadn't seen before. There were drawings by Emma Grace stuck to the fridge, drawings she hadn't made in a long time. One caught his eye, two figures dancing, one clearly in a wheelchair, both with huge smiles. When he went to check on Emma Grace, he found her hugging a stuffed bear he didn't recognize. "Who gave you this bear, sweetheart?" he whispered. Emma Grace opened her eyes slowly. "Aunt Rebecca. She said it was so I wouldn't feel alone when she's not here." "Do you like Aunt Rebecca?" "Very much, Daddy. She teaches me things Mommy used to teach me, and she doesn't get sad when I talk about Mommy." Michael felt a tightness in his chest. How many times had he changed the subject, or visibly tensed when Emma Grace mentioned Jennifer? Without realizing it, he'd made his daughter feel that talking about her mother was forbidden, something that caused pain. "You can talk about Mommy whenever you want, sweetheart. Don't be afraid." Aunt Rebecca said the same thing. She said special people never leave our hearts, even when we can't see them anymore. The next morning, Michael woke to the first rays of sunlight and a strange feeling. For the first time in months, Emma Grace hadn't woken up in the middle of the night from nightmares. The house felt different, lighter. When he went downstairs for breakfast, he found Margaret, the housekeeper, who'd worked with them for 5 years, preparing breakfast with a thoughtful expression. "Good morning, Mr. Michael. Can I talk to you about something?" "Of course, Margaret. What is it?" "It's about the new nanny. Yesterday I saw her dancing with Emma Grace and then I got curious. I looked up her name online." Michael felt his stomach tighten. Was there something wrong with Rebecca? Some issue in her past that he should have looked into before? "What did you find?" Margaret picked up the tablet she used to browse cooking recipes and showed Michael a series of old videos. Rebecca Wilson. She wasn't just a dancer, Mr. Michael. She was one of the principal dancers at the San Francisco Opera House. Look at this. On the screen, Michael saw Rebecca from a few years ago, dancing on a grand stage. Her movements had an astonishing grace, perfect technique, and a stage presence that commanded all attention. She wore a white tutu and seemed to float across the stage. "There's more," Margaret continued, swiping to another video. "She went on international tours, danced in famous theaters across Europe. She was considered one of the best classical dancers in the country." Michael was stunned. The woman he had hired out of desperation, the one agencies had rejected out of prejudice, was a renowned artist. "But what happened? How did she—" "That I couldn't find out," Margaret said. "The videos stopped appearing about 4 years ago. After that, nothing. It's like she vanished from the dance world." Michael spent the rest of the morning thinking about that revelation. When Rebecca arrived for work, he watched her with new eyes. There was a natural elegance in every movement she made, even while sitting in her wheelchair. The way she moved her hands, positioned her head, smiled. Everything had a grace that now made sense. "Good morning, Mr. Michael," Rebecca said, as polite and professional as always. "How did Emma Grace sleep last night?" "Very well, she slept through the night for the first time in months." "That's good. Yesterday was a special day for her. I think she's starting to open up again." Michael wanted to ask about her past, about the videos Margaret had found, but something held him back. If Rebecca hadn't mentioned her career as a dancer on her own, Maybe she had her reasons. "Rebecca, can I ask you a personal question?" She seemed tense for a moment. "Of course. Do you have experience with children who've suffered loss? Yesterday, I saw how you talked to Emma Grace about her mother, and it was perfect. She's never spoken about Jennifer that way with anyone." Rebecca lowered her eyes. "Unfortunately, yes. I know what it's like to lose someone very important, and I know how hard it is for a child to understand that it wasn't their fault, that there's nothing they could have done to bring that person back. Did you lose someone close too?" For a long moment, Rebecca was silent. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. "I lost my daughter 4 years ago. She was 5. Michael felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. Everything made sense now, the way Rebecca handled Emma Grace, the endless patience, the deep understanding of a child's pain. "Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. It was the same accident that left me like this," she said, lightly touching the wheels of her chair. "I was taking her to ballet class. It was Saturday morning, a beautiful day, a drunk driver. Well, you can imagine the rest." The words came out as a whisper, but they carried a weight Michael had never experienced. His own loss, as painful as it was, had been gradual. Jennifer had fought cancer for 2 years. They'd had time to prepare, to say goodbye. Rebecca had lost everything in an instant. That's why you understand Emma Grace so well. Every child who loses someone important carries the same pain, Mr. Michael. The difference is how the adults around them help them process it. Emma Grace needs to know she can talk about her mother, that she can miss her, that she can cry, but that she can also be happy again. And does dancing help? Rebecca smiled for the first time since the conversation had begun. Dancing heals the soul. When I move my body, even in the chair, I feel like my daughter Lily is still with me. It's a way to keep the good memories alive, you know? Emma Grace needs good memories of her mother, not just the pain of loss. Michael spent the rest of the day reflecting on that conversation. When night came and he went to check on Emma Grace before bed, he found her drawing. "What are you doing, sweetheart?" "I'm drawing Mommy dancing," said Emma Grace, focused on her paper. "Aunt Rebecca said when we draw special people, they stay close to us." In the drawing, Michael recognized the figure of her mother, clearly based on a photo Emma Grace loved, where Jennifer wore a blue dress. Beside her, a smaller figure was also dancing, and in the corner of the page was a third figure in a wheelchair. "It's all of us dancing together," explained Emma Grace. "Me, Mommy, and Aunt Rebecca. It's a very beautiful drawing, honey." "Daddy, why don't you ever dance with us?" The question caught Michael off guard. He had never been one for dancing, but he realized maybe it was time to change some things. "Maybe I can try one of these days. Aunt Rebecca can teach you too. She's a really good teacher." The following Monday, Michael decided to leave work a little early again. This time, it wasn't out of suspicion, but genuine curiosity to see more of those special moments between Rebecca and Emma Grace. When he got home, he heard music coming from the living room, but this time there were more voices. As he got closer, he saw that Emma Grace and Rebecca weren't alone. There were 2 more children in the house, a girl about 6 years old and a slightly younger boy. "Daddy!" Emma Grace shouted when she saw him. "Look, Olivia and Tommy came to dance with us." Michael recognized the kids. They were neighbors' children, but how had they ended up here? "Hi, Mr. Michael," said Rebecca, a little awkwardly. "I hope you don't mind. The kids' mothers asked if I could watch them this afternoon too. They had an emergency. I thought it would be nice for Emma Grace to have friends her age." "Of course, no problem. But what are you all doing?" "Aunt Rebecca is teaching us how to dance like she used to in the theater," said Olivia excitedly. "She showed us some videos on the tablet. She was really famous." Michael looked at Rebecca, who seemed embarrassed. "The kids asked why I danced so well," she explained. "I thought it wouldn't hurt to show them some old videos." "It's amazing," said Emma Grace. "Aunt Rebecca danced just like the princesses in the movies. And she said everyone can dance, even people in wheelchairs," added Tommy. Michael watched the scene. Rebecca had organized a real adapted dance class. Each child had learned different moves suited to their abilities. Emma Grace practiced simple spins, Olivia worked on body expression, and Tommy, who was shyer, learned to move to the rhythm of the music. "Do you all want to see something special?" Rebecca asked the kids. "I'll show you how a real performance works." She took a light blue scarf and began moving around the room. Even in her wheelchair, her movements had an impressive fluidity. The scarf floated through the air as if it had a life of its own, and Rebecca told a story through dance, the story of a butterfly learning to fly. The children were mesmerized. So was Michael. It was impossible not to be moved watching this woman turn her physical limitation into pure art. When the performance ended, the three children clapped enthusiastically. "I want to be a ballerina like Aunt Rebecca when I grow up," declared Emma Grace. "Me too," said Olivia. "I'm going to be a ballet dancer," added Tommy, making everyone laugh. That night, after the other children had left, Michael had an important talk with Emma Grace. "Sweetheart, are you sure you really want to learn how to dance?" "Yes, Daddy. Aunt Rebecca said if I practice a lot, I can get really good." "What if I enrolled you in a dance school?" Emma Grace's eyes lit up. "Really, Daddy? Can I?" "Yes, you can. But there's one condition." "What?" "Aunt Rebecca has to be your first teacher. You can only go to a school when she says you're ready." Emma Grace jumped into her father's lap. "She'll be so happy. She always says teaching dance is one of the most beautiful things in the world." The next day, Michael had a serious conversation with Rebecca. "I'd like to make you an offer," he said. "I'd like you to consider teaching dance to Emma Grace. I'll pay you separately, on top of your salary as a nanny." Rebecca seemed surprised. "Mr. Michael, I don't know if—" "I've seen the videos, Rebecca. I know who you were and I see who you are now. Emma Grace has natural talent, and you have the knowledge. It would be perfect. It's been a long time since I've taught dance formally. But you've been teaching informally every day, and you're doing an amazing job." Rebecca was silent for a moment. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But know that, no matter what you decide about the lessons, you'll always have a place here. Emma Grace isn't the same child she was a month ago, and that's thanks to you." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The following week, something happened that would completely change the family dynamic. Barbara Thompson, Michael's mother and Emma Grace's grandmother, decided to pay an unexpected visit. Barbara had moved to New York City right after graduation, built a successful career as a lawyer, and had a distant relationship with her son. Since Jennifer's departure, she had become even more critical of Michael's decisions, especially regarding Emma Grace's upbringing. "Michael, we need to talk," Barbara said as soon as she arrived, without even properly greeting her granddaughter. "Of course, Mom. Is something wrong?" "I heard you hired a nanny in a wheelchair to take care of Emma Grace. Is that true?" Michael felt his blood boil. He already knew where this conversation was headed. "Yes, it's true. And what's the problem?" "What's the problem?" "Michael, a 4-year-old child needs special care. How can someone in a wheelchair chase after her if needed? How can she take her to the park, protect her in an emergency?" "Mom, Rebecca is an excellent professional. Emma Grace has never been so well taken care of." "Michael, you're being irresponsible. If anything happens to my granddaughter because of this rash decision of yours, I'll never forgive you." Emma Grace, who had been playing in the next room, heard the raised voices and appeared at the kitchen door. "Grandma Barbara," she said, running to hug her grandmother. Barbara embraced her granddaughter, but Michael noticed her expression was still critical. "Where's your nanny, Emma Grace?" "Aunt Rebecca went to buy things for snack time. She'll be back soon." "And you're left alone when she leaves?" "No, Grandma. Daddy's here, or Aunt Margaret. Aunt Rebecca never leaves me alone." Michael could see his mother was clearly looking for flaws in Rebecca's care. "Emma Grace, go play in the living room for a bit. Grandma and I need to talk." When the little girl left, Barbara went back on the attack. "Michael, I know you're going through a hard time, but you can't let that cloud your judgment. Emma Grace needs proper care." "And she's getting it, Mom. Rebecca is—" Is what? A stranger you've known for a few weeks. Did you do a background check? Do you know if she has family references? Mom, that's enough. You're being prejudiced. It's not prejudice, it's protection. I've been a lawyer for 30 years, Michael. I know there are people who take advantage of vulnerable families. At that moment, Rebecca arrived from outside with some shopping bags. She entered through the kitchen door and immediately sensed the tension in the air. "Good afternoon," she said politely. "Sorry to interrupt." "You must be Rebecca," said Barbara, in a tone that wasn't exactly hostile, but was definitely assessing. "I'm Barbara Thompson, Emma Grace's grandmother." "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Barbara. Emma Grace has told me so much about you." "I imagine so. May I ask you a few questions about your work?" Michael was about to step in, but Rebecca made a subtle gesture for him to wait. "Of course, Mrs. Barbara. What would you like to know?" "How long have you been working as a nanny?" "I've been doing this for about 2 years, ever since my life circumstances changed." "And before that?" "I was a professional dancer." "I see. And why did you change careers?" Michael saw Rebecca hesitate for a moment. Barbara was being deliberately intrusive, and he didn't like the situation one bit. "Mom, I think that's enough questions." "No, Mr. Michael," Rebecca said calmly. "I can answer. Mrs. Barbara is Emma Grace's grandmother, and she has every right to know who her granddaughter is spending time with." She turned back to Barbara. "I stopped dancing professionally 4 years ago, after a car accident that left me in a wheelchair. In the same accident, I lost my 5-year-old daughter. Since then, I've been working with children because I found that it helps me cope with my own loss. And it seems my personal experience allows me to help children who've also suffered losses." The kitchen fell completely silent. Barbara clearly hadn't expected that answer. Michael saw his mother was speechless for a few seconds. I'm so sorry for your loss," Barbara said, visibly shaken. "Thank you. And I understand your concerns about Emma Grace. If I were a grandmother, I'd ask questions too, but I can assure you that she's being cared for with all the love and attention she deserves." Before Barbara could respond, Emma Grace came running back into the kitchen. "Aunt Rebecca, Grandma Barbara wants to see how I dance. Can I show her?" "Of course, sweetheart. How about we show your grandmother that new routine we learned?" "The butterfly one?" "That's the one." Emma Grace took Rebecca's hand, or rather the wheel of her chair, and the two went into the living room. Barbara and Michael followed. What happened next was transformative. Emma Grace and Rebecca began their butterfly routine. The little girl played the young, uncertain butterfly still learning to use her wings. Rebecca, even in her wheelchair, played the older, wiser butterfly, teaching the younger one to fly. The story was told entirely through movement. Emma Grace started curled up, making small, hesitant motions. Rebecca approached her with smooth wheelchair movements, extending her arms like protective wings. Gradually, Emma Grace grew more confident. Her movements became wider, freer. By the end, the two were flying together around the room, Emma Grace running in circles, while Rebecca followed in her chair, arms outstretched like wings. When the music stopped, Barbara's eyes were filled with tears. "That was beautiful, Emma Grace," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Aunt Rebecca taught me. She said everyone can be a butterfly, even people in wheelchairs." Barbara looked at Rebecca with a completely different expression. "It really was beautiful. You have a special gift with children." "Emma Grace is the special one," Rebecca replied. "She has a big heart and so much eagerness to learn." That night, after Emma Grace had gone to bed, Barbara asked to speak with Michael privately. "Son, I owe you an apology." "Mom, you don't have to." "I really do. I came here today with preconceived notions and ended up hurting someone who's clearly doing wonderful work with my granddaughter. Why were you so resistant to the idea?" Barbara sighed. "Because I'm afraid, Michael. Afraid that Emma Grace might suffer more than she already has. When you told me you'd hired a nanny who uses a wheelchair, I immediately thought of everything that could go wrong instead of what could go right. And now? Now I see Emma Grace is happier than she's been in months. I watched her dance, smile, talk about her mother without crying. This woman is doing for her what none of us could. Rebecca went through the same pain we did, Mom. Maybe even worse. She understands Emma Grace in a way we can't. I see that now. And I see that my prejudices almost made me commit a terrible injustice. The next day, Barbara did something unexpected. She showed up at Michael's house with a proposal. "Rebecca, I'd like to talk to you about something." "Of course, Mrs. Barbara." "Yesterday, after watching you work with Emma Grace, I couldn't stop thinking. You have dance training, experience with children, and a special gift for teaching. Have you ever considered opening a dance school?" Rebecca looked surprised. "A dance school?" "Yes, one specializing in adaptive dance for both typical children and those with disabilities or who've experienced trauma. I know there's a huge demand for this kind of work." "Mrs. Barbara, it's a beautiful idea, but I wouldn't have the resources to—" "I would. I'm a lawyer, I know the legal steps, and I have some investments that could fund a project like this. It would be a partnership." Michael was stunned. His mother, who just 24 hours ago had questioned Rebecca's capabilities, was now proposing to invest in a business with her. "I don't know what to say," Rebecca murmured. "Say you'll think about it. But no, this isn't just a business proposal. It's a way to multiply what you're doing for Emma Grace. Imagine how many children could benefit from your work." Emma Grace, who had been quietly listening, suddenly jumped off the couch. "Can I be the first student at Aunt Rebecca's school?" Everyone laughed. "Of course, sweetheart," Rebecca said. "If the school happens, you'll be our first and most special student." That week, something interesting began to unfold. Word spread among the building's neighbors about the dance lessons Rebecca was giving. Other mothers started approaching Michael to ask if Rebecca could teach their children too. "Mr. Michael," Rebecca said one Friday, "I've been getting so many requests. I think we need to talk about this." "What are you thinking?" "Maybe we could try a small group. Saturday afternoons, right here in the living room. A few kids from the building to see how it goes." "Do you feel ready for that?" "I think it's time to try." Emma Grace gave me the courage to teach again, and if Mrs. Barbara is right, if there really is a demand for this kind of work, then let's do a trial. The following Saturday, 6 children gathered in Michael's living room for Rebecca's first official class. Besides Emma Grace, there were Olivia and Tommy, the first to join in the dancing, plus 3 other children of varying ages. One of them, Madison, was a 7-year-old girl born with a mild motor disability that affected her coordination. Her mother, Christina, was especially anxious. "Rebecca, I don't know if Madison will be able to keep up with the other kids," Christina said before class began. "Mrs. Christina here, there's no keeping up. Every child works at their own pace with their own challenges. The important thing is to express themselves and have fun." The class was an absolute success. Rebecca created activities that allowed each child to participate according to their abilities. Madison, who was initially shy and unsure, was laughing and trying to do pirouettes with the others by the end of class. "How did you do that?" Christina asked afterward. "Madison had never tried dancing before. She always said she couldn't." "Every child can dance," Rebecca replied. "They just need to find their own way of moving. Madison has a very beautiful natural rhythm. She just needed encouragement." Michael watched everything from a distance, and in that moment he made an important decision. That night, after everyone had left, he showed Rebecca the video he had recorded weeks earlier. "Rebecca, there's something I need to show you." She watched in silence as the video played, showing her and Emma Grace dancing together on that first day he had captured. "Why did you record this?" she asked when the video ended. "At first I wasn't entirely sure why. Maybe because it was the first time I'd seen my daughter happy in months. But now I know what I want to do with this video." "What?" "I want to use it to show the world the incredible work you do. With your permission, of course." "How so?" "Barbara has media contacts because of her work. If we could show more people what you do, how many families could benefit? How many children like Emma Grace, like Madison, could get the chance to discover they can dance too?" Rebecca was silent for a long time. "I'm afraid," she finally said. "Of what?" "That people will only see the wheelchair. that they'll turn this into some sappy, inspirational story, you know. I don't want to be seen as the brave dancer who overcame her disability. I want to be seen as a skilled dance teacher who works with children. And that's exactly how you'll be presented, as an outstanding professional who's revolutionizing inclusive dance education. 2 weeks later, Barbara managed to schedule an interview with a local TV program that featured innovative community initiatives. The idea was to showcase Rebecca's work and how it was transforming the lives of children in the neighborhood. On the day of the recording, Rebecca was visibly nervous. What if I say something wrong? What if I forget the steps during the demonstration? You won't forget, said Emma Grace, who was also preparing to take part in the recording. You never forget when you're dancing. The interview took place in Michael's office, with some of the children who attended the classes. The journalist, Robert Anderson, was a middle-aged man who initially seemed skeptical about the idea. Rebecca, how would you define your teaching method? It's not really a method, she replied, more relaxed than she expected. It's more about seeing each child as a unique individual, with their own abilities and challenges. Dance is just a tool to help them express themselves and gain confidence. And how does your own personal experience influence your work? Losing a daughter taught me that every moment with a child is precious, and living with a disability taught me that physical limitations don't define what we're capable of. When I bring those two experiences together, I can help children overcome their own challenges. Robert asked her to demonstrate an activity with the children. Rebecca chose the dance of emotions, an activity where each child had to express a different feeling through movement. Emma Grace got joy and made big, bouncy movements. Madison got calm and created slow, gentle motions. Tommy got courage and struck poses that made him look bigger and stronger. It's remarkable, Robert commented during the recording. Each child is expressing themselves in a completely unique way, but they're all clearly engaged and happy. That's the point, Rebecca said. There's no right or wrong way to dance. Everyone has their own way. When the story aired a week later, the impact was far greater than anyone expected. Michael's phone wouldn't stop ringing with inquiries about Rebecca's classes. Parents of children with disabilities, shy children, kids who had gone through trauma, they all wanted to know how they could enroll. Rebecca, Barbara said one Monday morning, we need to speed up our plans for the school. We already have a waiting list of over 50 children. 50? Rebecca was shocked. And not just from New York. I've gotten calls from parents in other cities too. Some are even willing to travel to bring their kids to your classes. Emma Grace, who had been listening, had an idea. Aunt Rebecca, why don't you teach other teachers too? Then you could have Aunt Rebecca's schools in more places. The innocence of the suggestion made everyone laugh, but Barbara grew thoughtful. Emma Grace, you've just given us a brilliant idea. Rebecca, what if you developed a teaching method that could be replicated? You could train other teachers, franchise the concept. Barbara, this is moving too fast, Michael said. Let's take it slow. But Rebecca was intrigued. Actually, it's not too fast at all. Ever since I started working with Emma Grace, I've been developing activities, noting what works and what doesn't. I have enough material for at least a basic course. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, back to the story. 3 months later, the first official location of the Rebecca Wilson Dance Academy opened in a rented space in Greenwich Village. It was a spacious studio with mirrors, adaptable bars, and most importantly, full accessibility for wheelchair users and children with various disabilities. On opening day, over 100 people attended, parents, children, other special education professionals, and even some of Rebecca's former theatre colleagues who had heard about the initiative. I never imagined I'd see you back in the dance world, said Amanda, an old stage partner. When I heard about the accident, I thought you'd never want anything to do with dance again. I thought so too, Rebecca replied. But I've learned dance isn't just in the legs, it's in the soul. And as long as my soul is alive, I'll keep dancing. The first official class had 15 children, divided into 3 age groups. Emma Grace, now 5, was in the intermediate group, and had become a sort of assistant to Rebecca, always helping the younger kids feel comfortable. "Aunt Rebecca," said a new little girl, Sophie, just 3 years old, "I don't know how to dance." Emma Grace immediately stepped in. "I didn't either when I met Aunt Rebecca," she said, "but she taught me that everyone can dance, they just haven't discovered it yet." "Really?" "Yes. Want me to show you?" And so, Emma Grace, who months earlier had barely spoken, was now teaching another child the first dance steps she had learned from Rebecca. Michael watched, moved. His daughter hadn't just overcome the trauma of losing her mother, she was now helping other children face their own challenges. But not everything was smooth sailing. With the school's success came the first problems. Some professionals in the field began questioning Rebecca's qualifications to teach children with disabilities. "She might be a great dancer," commented a physical therapist in a Facebook parents group, "but working with special needs children requires specific training. Not just anyone can do this kind of work." The remarks reached Rebecca and left her deeply shaken. "Michael, maybe I'm being irresponsible," she said one evening after class. "Maybe I should have taken specialized courses before working with these children. Rebecca, you've already helped dozens of kids. The results speak for themselves. But what if I'm doing something wrong? What if I'm causing harm without realizing it? Look at Emma Grace. Look at Madison, at all the other children. Do you see any harm there?" It was true. Every child in her classes had shown significant improvement, not just in motor skills and body expression, but also in self-esteem and social abilities. Still, Rebecca decided it was time to get formally qualified. She enrolled in a specialization course in special and inclusive education, even though it meant balancing it with her work at the school. "Why are you doing this?" Emma Grace asked one afternoon, watching Rebecca study. "Because I want to be the best teacher I can be for you. The more I learn, the better I can help the children. You're already the best teacher in the world." "Thank you, sweetheart. But we can always improve, right?" During the course, Rebecca met other professionals who validated her work and helped her refine her methods even further. She learned about child development, child psychology, different types of disabilities, and how to adapt activities for each specific need. When she completed the course 6 months later, Rebecca felt even more confident in her work. And the critics quieted down when they saw she had pursued formal qualifications, proving her commitment to quality education. Around this time, something interesting happened in Michael's personal life. During a school performance by the children, he met Samantha, the mother of one of Rebecca's students. Samantha was a pediatrician, divorced, and had a 6-year-old son with autism named Ethan. "Your son is making incredible progress in class," Michael remarked during the performance intermission. "Rebecca is truly special," Samantha replied. "Ethan was never interested in physical activities before, but something about the way she teaches made him open up." Emma Grace was very withdrawn too before she met Rebecca. She has a real gift with children. "Are you Emma Grace's father? I've heard so much about her. Ethan always talks about his friend who dances really well." From that day on, Michael and Samantha began talking more often. They discovered they had a lot in common. Both were single parents. Both had experienced significant losses. Michael with his wife, Samantha with a failed marriage, and both were trying to do their best for their children. Emma Grace took to Samantha immediately. "Daddy, Ethan's mom is really nice," she said one evening. She explained why Ethan sometimes gets quiet during class. "And why does he get quiet?" "Because his brain works differently and sometimes he needs time to process things. But he really loves dancing, he just shows it in a different way." Michael was impressed by his daughter's maturity in understanding differences. "What do you think of Samantha?" "I like her. She talks to me like I'm actually smart, not just a little kid, and she makes Ethan smile." Meanwhile, Rebecca's school continued to grow. She had already trained 5 other teachers in her method, and there were plans to open a second location in another neighborhood. But just as success was building, her biggest challenge arrived. A group of conservative parents in the area started a campaign against the school, claiming it was promoting excessive inclusion and that children with disabilities should be educated separately. "It's absurd," Barbara said when she heard about the campaign. "In the 21st century, there are still people who think like this?" The situation became complicated when the campaign managed to pressure the city government to conduct a rigorous inspection of the school, searching for any irregularities that could be used to shut it down. "Rebecca, is all your documentation in order?" asked Michael, concerned. "Yes, everything's fine, but I'm afraid they might make something up." "They won't make anything up. Your work is impeccable." On the day of the inspection, something unexpected happened. The school children, even without fully understanding what was going on, sensed their favorite teacher was worried. Emma Grace had an idea. "Everyone, let's surprise Aunt Rebecca." "What kind of surprise?" asked Madison. "Let's show everyone how well we can dance." The children organized an impromptu performance in the schoolyard, right as the inspectors were conducting their evaluations. About 30 children, each with their own unique traits and challenges, danced together in a choreography, blending all the styles they'd learned from Rebecca. There were children in wheelchairs, children with autism, children with visual impairments, shy children, hyperactive children, all dancing together, each contributing their own unique movement to a performance that was both coordinated and completely free. The inspectors stopped writing their notes and watched. Some parents who were at the school to pick up their kids also paused. Within minutes, a small crowd had gathered to watch the spontaneous show. When the music stopped, silence lasted only a few seconds before applause broke out. Even the inspectors who had arrived determined to find problems were moved. "In 20 years of inspecting schools," said the lead inspector, "I've never seen children so happy and engaged in an educational activity." The school passed the inspection with flying colors, and the campaign against it quickly lost steam. In fact, the opposite happened. The children's spontaneous performance went viral on social media. Someone had filmed it, and the school began receiving support from people all over the world. "Aunt Rebecca," Emma Grace said a few days later, "there are people from England who want to visit our school." "England? How so?" "Daddy showed me on the computer. Lots of people from other countries are talking about our performance." It was true. The video of the performance had been shared thousands of times, with captions in multiple languages. Educators from different countries were reaching out to learn about Rebecca's methods. "This is amazing, but also a little scary," Rebecca confessed to Michael. "I never imagined it would come to this." "You're changing the world, Rebecca, one child at a time." "We're changing the world," she corrected. "Me, you, Emma Grace, all the children, Barbara, we're all part of this." 6 months later, Rebecca received an invitation to speak at an international conference on inclusive education in Chicago. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but she hesitated. "I don't know if I should leave the school and the children to travel," she said. "Rebecca," Barbara said, "you have to go. It's a chance to share your work with the whole world." "But what about the classes? What if Emma Grace and the other children are upset?" Emma Grace, who had been listening, stepped forward. "Aunt Rebecca, you should go." "Why, sweetheart?" "Because if you teach other teachers far away, more kids will get to dance like us. It's not fair to keep something good just for ourselves." The wisdom of that 5-year-old left all the adults speechless. "Besides," Emma Grace continued, "you taught me that dancing isn't just moving your body, it's moving your soul. And your soul will always be here with us, even when you're far away." Note, the translation strictly follows the provided cultural mappings and maintains the original structure, tone, and style as requested. Rebecca went to Chicago, and her lecture was one of the biggest successes of the conference. She presented her method, shared her story, and demonstrated some activities with volunteers from the audience. At the end, she received a standing ovation from over 1,000 educators from 50 different countries. When she returned to the United States, she brought invitations to open franchises of her school in 10 different countries. "What do you think?" she asked Michael. "I think you have to decide what's most important to you, growing internationally or focusing on local work." "Can I do both?" "How?" "By training teachers here in the United States who can take the method to other countries. That way, I don't have to be away from the school or the children here so much." And that's exactly what happened. Rebecca developed an intensive training program for teachers in inclusive dance. Every 3 months, Educators from different countries came to the United States for a 2-week course. Then they returned to their countries and opened their own schools following the method. Emma Grace, now 6 years old, had become a sort of little ambassador for the school. Whenever foreign teachers arrived, she made sure to personally show them how the classes worked. "My name is Emma Grace," she'd say in English, which she was learning at school. "I learned to dance when I was very sad. Now I help other children learn too." Michael watched it all with pride, not just because of his daughter's confidence, but because he saw how she had turned her own pain into a source of help for others. Meanwhile, the relationship between Michael and Samantha had naturally progressed. They had started dating, and the children, Emma Grace and Ethan, had become best friends. "Daddy," Emma Grace said one night, "are you going to marry Samantha?" "What do you think about that?" "I think it would be cool. Then Ethan would be my real brother, not just from dance class. And you wouldn't mind sharing your dad with someone else?" "Daddy, Aunt Rebecca taught me that love doesn't get smaller when you share it. It grows. The more people loving, the better for everyone." Once again, Emma Grace's wisdom amazed Michael. He decided it was time to take the next step. The marriage proposal happened during a special year-end performance at the school. Michael had arranged everything with Rebecca and the children. In the middle of the performance, he went on stage with a microphone. "Everyone, can I interrupt for just a minute?" The children stopped dancing, curious. "I want to take this moment, surrounded by all the people I love, to ask a very important question." He turned to Samantha, who was in the audience. "Samantha, will you marry me?" The answer came not just from Samantha, but from all the children in the school, shouting "yes" at the same time. Emma Grace and Ethan ran to the stage. "Now we're a real family," Emma Grace exclaimed. "And I'll have a sister who knows how to dance," Ethan added. The wedding took place 6 months later at the dance school itself. Rebecca was the matron of honor. Barbara was the official grandma to both children, and the entire ceremony was filled with dance performances by the school's children. "Who would have thought," Barbara remarked during the celebration, "that all this started with a wheelchair-bound nanny who was almost not hired because of prejudice? And who would have thought," Michael added, that closed-off, sad little girl would become one of the wisest and most generous children I know?" Emma Grace, wearing a pink party dress and a flower crown, approached the adults. "Can I say something?" "Of course, Princess. I think my mommy Jennifer is really happy today, because when she was alive, she always said she wanted me to be a happy girl who helped others, and now I am." "She must be so proud of you," said Rebecca, bending down to Emma Grace's level. "Aunt Rebecca, can I tell you another secret?" "Of course." "Sometimes I still talk to Mommy, and she told me you're an angel who came to take care of us." Rebecca felt her eyes fill with tears. "You know what I think, Emma Grace? I think you're the angel. You taught me that even after losing someone so important, we can be happy again. Can we dance again? We can dance again." And that's exactly what they did. Emma Grace and Rebecca stepped onto the makeshift stage and danced together, just like that first day that had changed everything. But this time they weren't alone. Michael joined them, then Samantha and Ethan, then Barbara, then all the children from the school, then every guest. The wedding reception turned into a grand celebration of inclusive dance, where people of all ages, with all kinds of abilities and challenges, danced together. Someone filmed the moment and posted it on social media with the caption, "When love knows no limits." The video went viral again, but this time no one cared about the fame. Everyone was too busy being happy. 2 years later, Emma Grace, now 8 years old, stood on the stage of the San Francisco Opera House, the same theater where Rebecca had danced in her professional career, participating in an international inclusive dance festival. She wasn't just a participant, but had helped choreograph one of the performances alongside other children from the school. The theme was Resilient Butterflies, a tribute to that first routine she and Rebecca had created together. In the audience were Michael, Samantha, Ethan, who now danced too, Barbara, Margaret, who had become the heart grandmother to all the school's children, and hundreds of others whose lives had been touched by Rebecca's work. When the performance ended and applause echoed through the historic theater, Rebecca stood backstage, overcome with emotion. "Why are you crying, Aunt Rebecca?" Emma Grace asked, still catching her breath. "I'm crying from happiness, sweetheart. A few years ago I thought I'd never step on this stage again, and today I'm here, not as a solo dancer but as a teacher, watching my students shine. And it's even more beautiful this way, isn't it? So much more beautiful." Emma Grace looked out at the audience where her family was cheering enthusiastically. "Aunt Rebecca, want to know something?" "What?" "I think your daughter Lily was watching today too, and I think she's really proud of her mum." Rebecca knelt to hug Emma Grace. "Thank you for teaching me that love doesn't end when someone leaves. It changes and keeps growing through other people." "You taught me that first," Emma Grace said. "When you showed me, I could talk about Mommy Jennifer without being sad, and dance to the songs she loved without crying. So we taught each other. Yeah, and now we're teaching so many people all over the world." Just then, Michael stepped onto the stage with a microphone. The theater fell silent. "Everyone, I know this wasn't planned, but I'd like to say a few words." He looked at Rebecca and Emma Grace. 3 years ago, I was a desperate father with a daughter who had shut herself off from the world. Out of prejudice, I almost refused the one person who could help us. Today I'm here watching my daughter not just happy, but helping other children find their own happiness. Applause broke out again, but Michael gestured for quiet. "Rebecca Wilson isn't just a dance teacher. She's a revolutionary. A woman who took her own pain and turned it into healing for hundreds of others. Emma Grace isn't just my daughter. She is living proof that resilience can be taught, that love can be multiplied, that limitations exist only in our minds." He turned to the audience. "Today, I want to officially announce the creation of the Emma Grace and Lily Foundation, an organization that will bring Rebecca's method to underprivileged children around the world, completely free of charge." The audience erupted in applause. Emma Grace looked at her father in surprise. "Lily is Aunt Rebecca's daughter, who went to heaven, right, Daddy?" "That's right, sweetheart. We thought it was only fair to honor the two most important girls in our story." Rebecca was openly crying now. "Michael, how did you—" "Barbara, some investors and I talked about this at length. You transformed our lives, our family, our community. Now it's time to transform the world." In the audience, one person stood up to applaud, then another. Within seconds, the entire theater was on its feet, clapping not just for the performance, but for the entire journey of resilience, love, and inclusion that had led to this moment. Emma Grace held Rebecca's hand. "Aunt Rebecca, remember when you said dancing moves the soul?" "I do. I think today we moved the soul of everyone here, and they were right. In that theater on that night, hundreds of people left with their souls stirred, their perspectives changed, their prejudices challenged. But the real magic wasn't in the grand theater, or the applause, or the international foundation. The real magic was in the fact that the next morning Emma Grace would wake up as she had for the past 3 years, happy, confident, ready to dance, and Rebecca would wake up as she had since she began working with Emma Grace, with purpose, with hope, with the certainty that her pain had transformed into something greater. The Emma Grace and Lily Foundation became a reality 6 months later. Within 2 years, it had trained over 500 teachers in 30 countries. Thousands of children worldwide were learning that their differences weren't limitations, but unique traits that made them special. Emma Grace, now 10 years old, balanced her regular studies, dance classes, now at an advanced level, and her role as the Foundation's junior consultant. Whenever a new project was developed, her input was sought. "Aunt Rebecca," she said during a Foundation board meeting, "I think we should have a special program for kids who've lost their parents." "Why, Emma Grace?" "Because when I lost Mommy, no one knew how to talk to me about it. Everyone felt uncomfortable. If we teach instructors how to discuss loss with children, it could help a lot." The suggestion was approved and became one of the most sought-after modules in the training program. Ethan, now 12, had discovered a special talent for musical composition. He created soundtracks for many of the Academy's choreographies, adapting rhythm and melody to the specific needs of each group of children. "Ethan has an incredible ear," Rebecca would say. "He knows exactly what kind of music will work best for each child." Michael and Samantha had welcomed another child, a boy named Noah, now 2 years old, who already showed signs of wanting to join his older siblings in dance class. Barbara, at 70, had retired from law and now devoted herself entirely to the foundation's legal and administrative work. She traveled the world to establish partnerships and ensure Rebecca's work reached the places it was needed most. "I never imagined I'd retire only to work harder than ever," she said, laughing. "But I've never done anything so rewarding." Margaret had become the administrative coordinator of the original academy and was often approached by journalists wanting to understand how it all began. "I saw it from the very first day," she would always say. "I saw the way Emma Grace looked at Rebecca, and the way Rebecca looked at Emma Grace. It was love at first sight. Not romantic love, but soul love. The kind of love where you recognize in the other person someone who can save you." One day, 5 years after that first performance at the San Francisco Opera House, Emma Grace asked a question that took everyone by surprise. "Aunt Rebecca, do you still have that video Dad took of us dancing together for the first time?" "Yes, I do, sweetheart. Why?" "Can I see it?" They gathered in the living room of the house, the same room where it all began, to watch the video. Emma Grace, now a 13-year-old preteen, silently watched the scene from 5 years earlier, a small, sad, withdrawn 4-year-old girl dancing for the first time with a woman in a wheelchair she had just met. "It's funny," Emma Grace remarked when the video ended. "I remember that day perfectly, but I didn't remember how small I was, and I didn't remember how lost I looked." "You were lost, sweetheart," said Michael. "We all were. But Aunt Rebecca found us." "Actually," Rebecca said, "you found me. I was lost too when I came here." Emma Grace grew thoughtful for a moment. "Though you know what I want to do when I grow up?" "What?" "I want to be a teacher like you, but I want to work with adults too. I want to teach parents how to understand their children better." "That's a beautiful idea, Emma Grace. And I want the first course to be about how not to be afraid to hire people who are different, because if Dad hadn't hired you that day, none of this would have happened." Michael smiled. "Your mum, Jennifer, would be so proud of the woman you're becoming." "I know, Dad. Sometimes I still talk to her in my dreams, and she always says she's happy because I turned my sadness into strength to help others." "And that's exactly what you've done." That same year, Emma Grace began giving talks at schools about acceptance and inclusion. Her first talk was at her own school for students her age. "Hi everyone. My name is Emma Grace, and I want to talk to you about why it's important not to judge people by their appearance." She told her story simply and directly, explaining how she almost missed the chance to meet the most special person in her life because of prejudices she didn't even know she had. "Aunt Rebecca uses a wheelchair," she said, "and a lot of people think that means she can't do certain things. But she taught me how to dance, helped me cope with losing my mum, and now she's the director of an international foundation. The wheelchair doesn't define who she is, just like our differences don't define who we are." At the end of the talk, a boy raised his hand. "Emma Grace, what if we meet someone different but don't know how to approach them? Just treat them the way you'd want to be treated, with kindness, respect, and no fear. People who are different aren't dangerous. They just need a chance to show who they really are." A girl raised her hand. "Do you still feel sad when you think about your mom?" "Sometimes I do. Missing someone is normal, and it's okay to feel that way. But I've learned that the best way to honor someone you love is to keep living in a way that would make them proud." At the end of the school year, Emma Grace won the school's Citizen Student Award, given to the student who contributed the most to making the school environment more inclusive and welcoming. During the award ceremony, she asked to speak. "I want to dedicate this award to everyone who's judged for their differences before they get the chance to show who they really are. And I especially want to dedicate this to my mommy Jennifer, who taught me that love means acceptance, to my Aunt Rebecca, who taught me that limitations exist only in our minds, and to Lily, Aunt Rebecca's daughter, who, even though she's no longer here, continues to inspire our foundation to help children all over the world." The audience rose to their feet in applause. In the crowd, Michael, Samantha, Ethan, Noah, now 5 years old, Barbara, Margaret, and Rebecca wept with pride. Later, at home, the family gathered to celebrate. "Emma Grace," said Barbara, "are you sure you're only 13? Sometimes you speak like a very wise adult." "It's because I've had good teachers," Emma Grace replied, looking at Rebecca. "Aunt Rebecca always says life teaches, but only to those willing to learn." Noah, who was sitting in Samantha's lap, suddenly jumped up and ran to Rebecca. "Aunt Becky," that's what he called Rebecca, "will you teach me to dance like you taught Emma Grace?" "Of course, Noah, but you already know a little bit, don't you?" "I do. Watch." And the little boy began spinning around the room, making clumsy but joyful movements. Everyone laughed and clapped. "He's going to be the next great dancer in the family," said Ethan. "We're all dancers," Emma Grace said. "Aunt Rebecca taught me that dancing isn't just for those who know the right steps. It's for those who have the soul to express themselves." Rebecca looked around the room at the people she loved and thought about how it had all begun. A desperate man, a sad little girl, a broken woman, and how, together, they had built something far greater than any of them could have imagined alone. "What are you thinking about?" Michael asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. "I'm thinking that 7 years ago, when you hired me, I thought I was just taking a job to survive. I never imagined I was starting a new life. And I thought I was just trying to find someone to take care of Emma Grace. I never imagined I'd gain an extended family and change the world." Emma Grace walked over and sat on the floor, leaning her head against the leg of Rebecca's chair. "Can I tell everyone a secret?" "Go ahead," they all said at once. "Sometimes I pretend I don't remember much about what it was like before Aunt Rebecca came. But I do. I remember being so sad, being afraid to talk about Mommy, thinking I'd never be happy again. And I also remember the exact moment that changed." "What moment was that?" Samantha asked. "It was the first day we danced together. Aunt Rebecca held my hand and said, 'Let's dance our sadness out and our joy in.' Right then I thought, this woman is magic." "And do you still think she's magic?" Ethan asked. "I do. But now I know her magic isn't about making bad things disappear. It's about teaching us how to turn bad things into good ones." Rebecca felt her eyes well up. "Emma Grace, you know you've changed my life, just as much as I've changed yours, right?" "I know. That's why we're real family. Family isn't just who you're born with. It's who you choose to stay with and grow with." That night, after all the children had gone to bed, the adults stayed talking in the living room. "Do you believe in fate?" Rebecca asked. "Why do you ask?" Barbara said. "Because sometimes I think about how many things had to go right for all this to happen. If Michael hadn't decided to leave work early that day, if he hadn't filmed me dancing with Emma Grace, if you all hadn't decided to use the video to promote my work." "I believe the right people come at the right time," Samantha said. "But I also believe we have to be open to recognizing them when they do." "Was Michael open?" Barbara teased her son. "Honestly, no," Michael admitted. "I hired Rebecca out of desperation, not because I was open-minded. If I'd had any other option, I probably wouldn't have given her a chance." "But you did," said Rebecca, "and that's what matters." "And you all saw how Emma Grace reacted from day one," commented Margaret. "Children sense when an adult is good or bad. Emma Grace trusted Rebecca immediately." "Children are wiser than adults," said Barbara. "They don't have ready-made prejudices. They see the person, not the labels." "That's why our work succeeds," said Rebecca. "We work with children before the world teaches them to fear differences." "And now we're teaching adults to unlearn those fears," added Michael. 2 years later, the Emma Grace and Lily Foundation welcomed a delegation from the World Assembly for Peace, interested in turning Rebecca's method into an international public policy for inclusive education. "Mrs. Wilson," said the representative from the World Cultural Organization, "we'd like to propose including your method in the core teacher training curriculum for all member countries." "It's an honor, but I need to consult my team," Rebecca replied. The team included Emma Grace, now 15 and officially the Foundation's youngest consultant. What do you think, Emma Grace? Rebecca asked during the meeting. I think it's what we've always dreamed of. Imagine how many children worldwide will have teachers who know how to handle differences. But it also means I'll have to travel a lot, give many lectures, be away from you sometimes. Aunt Rebecca, Emma Grace said with the seriousness of an adult, you taught me that when you have a gift, you must share it with the world. Your gift is teaching love through dance. If you keep it just for us, you're being selfish. Michael laughed. She turned the tables on you, Rebecca. She sure did. All right, Emma Grace, let's take our work worldwide. But on one condition, said Emma Grace. What? I'm coming with you. Someone needs to make sure you don't forget to tell the most important part of our story. What part is that? The part that shows everyone can change, that adults can grow, that prejudices can be overcome, that families can be created in different ways. That love is stronger than any limitation. 3 years later, Emma Grace stood on the stage of the World Assembly for Peace at 18, speaking to representatives from 193 countries about the importance of inclusive education. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, my name is Emma Grace Thompson, and 14 years ago, I was a 4-year-old girl who had given up on happiness. She told the whole story, from her first meeting with Rebecca to the transformation it had brought to her family and community. Today, our foundation has trained over 10,000 teachers in 80 countries. More than 500,000 children worldwide have learned that their differences are their superpowers, not their weaknesses. At the end of her speech, Emma Grace made a special request. I'd like to invite a very special person to join me on stage. The woman who transformed not just my life, but the lives of countless families around the world. Rebecca Wilson, my second mother, my teacher, my inspiration. Rebecca took the stage in her wheelchair, now 45, more mature but with the same warm smile as always. Emma Grace has always been my best teacher, she said into the microphone. She taught me that healing your own pain by healing others is the most beautiful way to turn tragedy into purpose. The two embraced on stage, and the image was broadcast worldwide, inspiring millions. Later at the hotel, the family gathered to celebrate. Do you realize what happened today? Barbara said, moved. A girl who was almost lost in sadness just spoke to the whole world about hope. And a woman who lost everything just showed the whole world how to rebuild a life, Michael added. Emma Grace was looking out the hotel window at the city of Los Angeles. What are you thinking about? Asked Ethan, now 20 years old and a music graduate. I'm thinking about Mommy Jennifer and Lily, she said. I think they'd be so proud to see how far we've come. I'm sure they are, said Rebecca. Aunt Rebecca, can I ask you something I've always wanted to but never had the courage to? Of course, sweetheart. Do you still feel sad when you think about Lily? Rebecca was silent for a moment. I do, Emma Grace. The longing never fully goes away, but I've learned that I can feel both longing and gratitude at the same time. Longing for the Lily I lost, and gratitude for you and all the other children I've gained. That's exactly how I feel about Mommy Jennifer, said Emma Grace. And you know what else? I think they'd both be happy to know that their absence turned into so much presence in so many people's lives. Noah, now 8 years old and already a talented dancer, walked up to them. When I grow up, I'm going to keep doing your work, he said, with all the certainty of a child. And I'll compose the music, said Ethan. And I'll handle the legal side, said Samantha. And I'll manage everything, said Michael. And I'll give my opinion on everything, said Barbara, making everyone laugh. Emma Grace looked around at this family that had formed out of a desperate hiring decision and smiled. Do you know what's the most amazing thing about this whole story? What? They all asked. It all started because Daddy came home early one day and decided to peek through the window. If he'd come home at his usual time or gone straight inside, maybe he never would have seen me and Aunt Rebecca dancing. And none of this would have happened. But he did see, said Rebecca, and he decided to record it. And then he chose to use that video for good instead of for harm. What do you mean for harm? Asked Noah. He could have used the video to fire me, saying I was being irresponsible by teaching dance instead of just babysitting, Rebecca explained. But he chose to use it to show the world what was really happening. Because Daddy is good, said Emma Grace. No, Emma Grace, said Michael. because you two taught me to be better. And so, that night in Los Angeles, 15 years after a widowed businessman caught his wheelchair-bound nanny dancing with his 4-year-old daughter, a family completely different from the original, yet bound by the same values of love, acceptance, and transformation, celebrated another milestone in their journey to change the world, one child at a time. The original video, the one Michael had secretly recorded that Thursday afternoon, still existed. Kept as a family treasure, it was watched every year on the anniversary of the foundation, and every time they watched it, they were reminded that great transformations can begin with small acts of courage. Emma Grace, now an 18-year-old young woman about to start college in psychology to specialize in childhood grief, still danced. But now she danced not just to express herself, but to teach other children that life can be beautiful again, even after the most painful losses. Rebecca, at 45, had become one of the world's most respected educators in inclusion. But to her, the most important title remained Aunt Rebecca, what Emma Grace would always call her, no matter how old they got. And Michael, looking at his extended and unlikely family, knew this was proof that love knows no boundaries, limitations, or prejudices. It expands, multiplies, and transforms, creating bonds that no adversity can break. In that apartment in Los Angeles, surrounded by each other's love, they knew the story they had built together was far greater than any one of them individually. It was proof that when good people come together, no matter their differences or limitations, they can create something extraordinary. And the most beautiful part of all was that it was still just the beginning. End of story. Now tell me what you thought of this story and where you're watching from. Do you believe love can overcome any prejudice? Share your honest opinion in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories.